So it is time. We start again. So our next session is opening a digital art museum. Today we have our moderator Marlene Corbun. She's the head curator at laCollection. With over a decade of advising private clients and institutions, she's now helping museums and artists pioneering Web3. She began her career at White Cube and Christie's in London and holds a postgraduate degree in art history and management. Marlene, the stage is yours with all your panelists.
Thank you, Diane. Hello, everyone. So today we are going to talk about opening a digital art museum, which is an exciting topic. And what is interesting especially is that we are seeing innovative structures. We are actually seeing how digital art is pushing the boundaries on how also museums should be, changing also the statu quo maybe in some instances. And there are also obviously a lot of specificities associated to that, to the medium in terms of conservation, in terms of scenography, in terms of how people are mediating also the topic with the public. And there is another element around bridging gaps with the traditional contemporary art market that can be a challenging one or not. And we will see with our panelists, it's not always actually challenging. And the last part that we will address will be around how actually digital art is a catalyst, is a cultural catalyst today, and what we believe it can bring to not only contemporary art practices, but also to society as a whole. And to address those elements, we have four amazing panelists today. Erin Dragotto, head of the Art and Light Museum in the US. Elena Carbajal, head of art at the Onkaos Museum. Susanna Barla, founder of Creative Fund. And Vicente Matallana, director of the New Art Foundation in Spain. To start the panel, we will discuss the first part, which is on new models and innovative ecosystems that are created thanks to digital art. And we will start with Susanna Barla, that is really pushing the boundary on that topic.
Hi, everyone.
And please introduce yourself, Susanna, before answering the question.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a co-founder, general partner of Creators Fund, which is a venture studio and an investment fund, ultimately venture capital. And I've been based in the US. Now I moved to Brazil, which gave me a lot more profound and holistic worldview, I would say, like institutionally as well. And I became really passionate about bridging the gaps between economically and culturally otherwise. So we're bringing together a couple of institutions, how to prototype a new business model, which is not traveling exhibitions and licensing the IP of exhibition modeling, but rather create an exhibition as an investment, as a standalone company, and institutions, private art foundations, venture capitalists, angel investors could invest in the same company, and that can have multiple revenue streams from digital gaming, fashion collaboration, exhibitions, IP. So you have I think we have 10 revenue streams around one exhibition. And if you continue this traveling show, I would say, then one narrative can live for years. That's my problem with the beautiful exhibitions, that people spend a year of their time to have an exhibition that dies in 3 months and it becomes an archive. So I started to see these inefficiencies coming from outside of the art world, which was a decade ago at this point. But I think it's very important how to innovate and how we can actually give the tools for artists, the economic tools as well as the technical tools that they can develop their multi-layered, amazing, world-building, creative IP. And that's about it.
Thank you, Susanna. Erin, maybe you want to jump in as the museum launched very recently.
Yeah, I think, Erin Dragotto. I am executive director of the Museum of Art and Light, which is located in Manhattan, Kansas, or the Little Apple, as we like to call it. Little joke. We So I think a level set here, I'll say, is that our ethos, just kind of going backward a bit, our ethos is in art education. We want everyone to receive art education, and that is our long-term vision, even long after I'm dead. So that's where we started our museum, and then so that was the why. The what is the digital and the physical lens by which we operate. But I am very interested in what you were talking about just a second ago, and the death of these exhibitions and how, I mean, we are slogging to create an exhibition that is only up for so long. You know, you do all the marketing, you put it out there, you try to get the people in. And then it's like on to the next. And I think you're touching on a sensitive subject because we haven't even been open 9 months, and we are already changing our galleries out in a month. So I appreciate the lens you're working with. Does that help?
Yes, thank you, Erin. And then maybe Vicente, if you want to talk to us about your museum, especially as you build the project. I mean, Erin is very recently, but actually, Vicente, it's been years and years. So maybe can you tell us more about this historical journey?
Well, thank you for coming. I'm Vicente Matallana. I'm the director of the New Art Foundation, and as you can imagine, for my age, in this business for almost 30 years. Well, I'm the director of a project that started with an award at the Art Fair 20 years ago. From this award, we started a collection, and in one moment, we decided that the market was not reflecting what the community was doing. So we started to produce artwork with the artists. Right now, it's mostly the 50% of the artwork from the collection, and I combine to my dear friends and patrons, you know, Marie-France and Andreu, that to a new art, and we need to do new practice and also to sponsor projects from the artists and to help the community to do their work. So we create the foundation. From the foundation, step by step, we were growing, and some years ago, we started to think on create an art center, and there is something that I really like from the legal form from the foundation is that a foundation is a private initiative that doesn't belongs to anybody. You know, you don't own the foundation. You know, it's mostly public, so it has to be a public service. So we realized one thing, that if we have 150 works from a period of almost 60 years, we were quite good, you know, preserving our works, because all the artworks, except one, are all functional. So we are creating this art center that is not only focused in exhibiting artworks and producing artworks, that we are continuing doing that, but also in preserving artworks from a really practical point of view.
Thank you, Vicente. And now, Elena, can you tell us more about the foundation and its model?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Elena. So you can see here, I am running Onkaos, which is the digital, where I prefer to talk about digital culture, not digital art, for some things that I will say later. But it's only a department in a much bigger institution that is called Solo Contemporary. And it started as a private collection, all mediums based. And they started to having like more intimate relationship with artists. They wanted to do like more patronage, but in deep with the artists, not just doing like big commissions or big exhibitions. So right now we are in a very exciting moment because we are dealing with the opening of a new museum. We had one already opened, both of them are in Madrid. And for the first one, in terms of working and curation, we were only exhibiting things that were part of the private collection of the founders. But with the new space, we hope to have another public program. So with it, we have new challenges, new ways of dealing with the different roles that we take, because we are collectors, we are art dealers, we are producers, so we really want to take care of every aspect of the contemporary art needs and the space needs. So yeah, it's a big challenge.
Thanks, Elena. And now if we switch to the key challenge, let's say, I mean, one of the key challenges in building a digital art museum is the medium and what it entails. And one important element is conservation. And on that topic, I wanted to start with you, Vicente, because in your new model, you really focused on that part, especially with research.
Well, preservation of technological digital art, of course, is a challenge, but it's mostly a challenge because it's completely new. You don't have books, let's say, to study, and it's something like everything in this field. When we started in the 90s, we were inventing everything, you know. We were starting from zero, you know, and even how to make our lives from this business, not? But I always say that it's more complicated to preserve a classical artwork, you know, like it's more complicated to preserve the Guernica than a technological artwork, because we always work with industrial components. That is a real advantage. The question is a question of methodology. We have a really strict protocols from the first moment that we start to produce an artwork with an artist. With the components, we study the components. We study, when I say components, software is another component, you know. We study the components, sustainability of the components in facing the future, you know, how we create the files, you know, and how we how we maintain the artworks. For example, in our art center, from 3,000 square meters, 1,500 square meters are for storage. And of course, we don't need 1,500 square meters just for the collection that we are preserving now, but we are offering this as a service for the community. That's another history. But one of of our practice is that the artworks will be switched on and off at least once per year, because the early detection of problems makes really easy to solve the problems. If I wait 10 years, you know, if I keep one artwork 10 years in the box, and after 10 years I open the box, I will find problem that will be a nightmare. But if I make an early detection of the problems, you know, usually are quite easy to solve. You know, it's just a question of methodology.
And what I really like as well is you open your methodology. It's not only for your museum, but you open it to the community. So it's also sharing your expertise of it.
Yeah, yes, everything that all our work and everything, we are now remodeling the web page, you know. But everything will be on Creative Commons, of course.
That's an important part. And another key, I mean, that could be a challenge or not, but another element is the mediation. on digital art that is niche and that is sometimes not known enough from the public. And Erin, I know in terms of mediation, it's something you really looked at as well with the museum.
Yeah, and I think it's important to go back to our origination story, which I apologize I didn't fully explain. We are three things mainly. Fine art collection, which is the founding collection, which is started with over 50 works from 19th century to contemporary. But when those founders said, we want to open a museum, we said, well, the audience is 21st century. You can't just, yes, museums are interesting in the wall space, but we need to pay attention to the visitors. So then we started to look at immersive exhibitions and looked at Atelier de Lumière, modeled ourselves after it. Now we have 20,000 square feet of immersive exhibitions, and then digital came along. So when you're talking about, and so each of these components have their own dedicated 17 to 20,000 square feet of space. So when you're talking about mediation and preservation, it is a job. It's a big one, and we're still contemplating life, I think. But how do you interpret? And I think that's the most important thing for us, is how do you interpret all of those different components, while also, which is the fourth element that we're working with, creating with artists as well.
Yes, and actually on that topic, which is also connected to the community in digital art that is so strong, I know that Susanna and Elena, in your models, working with artists and the collaboration with them is very strong. So maybe can you tell us more? Elena, if you want to start.
Yeah, so as I was talking before, we have, in our institution, we are very medium agnostic. So there's always a weird balance. And also for digital art as a concept itself is very complex to really dig into it, because you start to have these questions about what's the limit of the object that you are presenting and curating for a show. How do you communicate the process? When the artwork starts? There are many things that maybe you cannot see but are part of it, like the code that maybe you don't see it but is running. And also we feel that that's why we prefer to talk about digital culture, because in a sense computation is like a big infrastructure that goes for everything around us. And it's also important to take this into account, because sometimes for people from other spaces, they have other needs. And sometimes digital art as a concept is being seen as content for a screen and these kind of things. And this is what we want to avoid. And in terms of working with the artist, it's always very intensive. I think each production is like a whole new world. It's very intimate, very personal, and you really need to build trust with all the team, with the production team, with the installment team, with the preservation and conservation team, because there are many things that you don't take into account in advance, because there are things that you cannot know and questions that you don't even know that you would have. And in terms of the things that we want to do with our program has also to do with research, and also to create a mediation that really expands the audience that we have for contemporary art intersecting with digital technology and digital culture. So it's a really big question for us, how to deal with everything that is not seen beyond the thing that you hang on a wall and that you put on a screen. How do you communicate that? How you create opportunities so the people can talk to the artist and delve into the works. Yeah.
Thanks, Elena. And Susanna, on your side for the challenges, I want to add something, because as you are pushing a bit the boundary of the museum as a commercial entity, going fully startup around the artist, you have this challenge of preserving the creativity of the artist and his DNA. So how do you protect that element?
Now, this is what I'm really passionate about because most of my friends are artists. So this is my yeah, it's my job as well. But I'm very passionate about this topic because most of them, even though they're presenting and represented in Serpentine and New Museum, they're underpaid. They paid below minimum wage because they don't the murky IP models. And you know, it kind of puzzled me because when you're coming from the startup world and you understand how to raise millions of dollars and you understand how these technologies, software bros, tech bros, sorry, if everyone is a tech bro, appreciate, but many of them from Silicon Valley, they valued, like, look at Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, I'm just naming a few, and they started out with a PDF, and someone valued their IP, you know, 4 billion, like Hugging Face. Let's talk about a French startup or laCollection. But this is it. Like, if you understand how do you scale and how do you build these multi-billion-dollar values of nothing, and I start to pull my hair out. Like, I know the most amazing creatives in the world, like Chris Colendra and Thomas, Simon Denny, he's coming, I think. I can name so many. Jakob Steensen, amazing game developer. Brilliant entrepreneurs in my mind. So I was like, okay, let's build around every of your IP a startup, own your IP, and let's bring money into this, like if you were in Silicon Valley. And really, I hate the 50-50 gallery model as well, because we're prototyping with one of our artists. I name use cases so you guys understand what I'm talking about. Gabriel Masson, for instance, he has a wonderful gallerist and he wants to change the gallery model as well. And it's a use case. How do we support Gabriel to really have the tools what he needs, not just technical, economic tools, and how to protect him from, for instance, what happened to him with his touring show. It's you know, always the artist pulls the shortest end, and we want to empower the artist. Like, you are the one who we need to protect, because if you look around Silicon Valley, like, the founders are the protected ones. So that's I don't know if I answer correctly to the question, but in our case, I'm forcing to the artist owning the IP till the end, because that's how you can protect and actually license this IP. You can license Gabriel's IP to fashion. You can license Gabriel IP to, I don't know, so many things, even education.
But they keep the control. That's what you
Yes.
mean in your structure.
Marlene, well, I want to just flip on the other side of museums, because we are actually licensing our own work too. So, you know, immersive technology, you can license and share and sell. And so, you know, we have to add leaves to the portfolio here, because museums are going to die if we don't. And so therefore, the ecosystems will no longer survive either.
No, I was just quoted yesterday. Like, I was a speaker at another conference, and literally I just laughing last night, like, the museums will die. They picked my quote. I'm like, great, now the museum people are gonna love me.
No, I said it. It's okay.
Nah, you said it, it's fine.
Exactly. So both can actually dialogue together, which is great.
No offense.
And then actually, in terms of like challenging the statu quo as well, we were discussing the title of our panel, Opening a Digital Art Museum. So focusing on the medium and building something very medium specific. Is it actually the right answer? And to have the first part of that conversation, Elena, I would like to ask you, because in your model, actually, there is no separation, no isolation of the medium.
I think no, because I don't want, and we don't want to ask an artist to do something specific. Like, they need to preserve their creativity. There are many ways of using technology. You can use hardware, you can create software, you can create both, because they are always together. You can create an site-specific installation, which is something that I sometimes miss in the space, because it's not the easiest, but it's really intensive, and it's really emotional and important also for the artist to have the opportunity to build something for themselves. Also, it's really interesting the tension, the tension with the IP, because there's artists that they don't want to have that model. So then what we do? So it's always like an open question, like how we, like when we stop things being art and medium based and digital and everything is it's kind of difficult, but for me, it's just for the artists. They need to expand what they do, and every category that we create is always it usually don't work. For example, with AI art, we can see it, like it's a big open question that we cannot even like try to solve nowadays. I think there are many strong and different opinions in the space. So in terms of growing, also to grow the audience and to grow the collectors for the artists, you really need to go beyond medium-specific works.
And actually on that topic, Erin also, the Museum of Art and Light has 3 elements: the immersion, the digital art, and the fine art. So it was also a statement when you started the museum to not isolate anything.
Yeah, and it was very purposeful because we wanted to meet the 21st century where it was, but also why rural America? I mean, I get that question a lot. Where's Kansas? Why Kansas? Because, when my cheeky answer is, well, why not? Because why should only major metropolitan areas have culture? That's silly to me, and I really think, and we're all paying attention to the news, that rural areas need it more than most. And so that's a fundamental thing we decided, and it is extremely difficult, by the way, to make sure people come. And so and thank you for having us and speaking on this topic. But in order to make all of that alive and culturally relevant, my job, I mean, we've all drunk the Kool-Aid. You are not my audience, no offense, but my audience is the lay people coming in my door and really interpreting what is digital. I don't even know what I'm looking at. So we really have to unpack what that means, because we can do all these fancy things, but it's going to fall on deaf ears. Maybe not. But anyway, that's where we sit in the interpretation, squarely in interpretation. It's physically and geographically located, coupled with the digital and the physical.
Well, we're not your audience today, but it's a goal in 10 years that we are. I think so.
Yeah, I'll come back and let you know.
And to take actually the reverse, the opposite of that element of opening, Vicente, the strategy for your museum was really to focus on the medium. So, and you're building all the expertise around it. So it's a dedicated strategy. Can you tell us more?
Yes, we decided, well, I'm specialized, since 30 years ago in art, science, and technology, not in digital art, in art, science, and technology as a concept, and we decided to create this foundation in this, specialized in this field, to help this field, The foundation was created 12 years ago. That is an eternity in this field, and the artists need completely our energy to be supported, to be supported. And during this year, we have sponsored more than 100 projects, from its kind. We have produced around 70 projects, something like that. And right now, I want to think that we have contributed to that right now in Barcelona, in Catalonia. We are in a really sweet moment, where from the institution to the social, to the civil society, from research center to universities to cultural agents, everybody's trying to work together, and so I think that has been thanks that everybody thought that we need to support a specific field,
And you're a reference in the topic that is much needed also.
I think so.
Now, if we go back to bridging worlds, Susanna, in your case, you're like not only bridging mediums, but also industries. As you mentioned, when you presented the project, you're also working with fashion. Can you tell us more how you operate?
operator. I'm gonna speak about Anya and Deja. Yeah, so basically, like background, I used to work in high-end fashion, and it was amazing back in the day. Martin Margiela, I learned from brand architecture from Martin Margiela. Not himself, because we never seen him. Maybe he's like Satoshi, huh? But that's when I realized the power of communication and branding, because everything is marketing. In venture capital, in museums, everything is marketing. How do you market yourself? How do you get consumers to choose you as opposed to be? And so in fashion, look at the fashion world. They're the most innovative arts project coming from fashion nowadays. And who funds like art? Like Gucci was funding Triennale. Without Gucci, there's no Triennale. I can name so many high-end fashion brands. But again, fashion brands, when it comes to commissioning artists and giving artists fees and using their creativity for their fashion, it's another questionable ethical bridge that I want to unpack. For instance, I'll tell you a concrete example because I like concrete examples. Reached out to Iris van Herpen's studio like 2 years ago, and this project landed in our lab to take a 100% biodegradable dress. To do what with it is the question. And I was like, okay, let's start the world build. Why don't we pair operator and Anya wearing a dress, creating a performance? The dress becomes also digitalized, license the IP second time. Now it becomes part of a game by Jacob Steensen using operator choreography. I'm licensing now 3 IPs from 3 artists. They own shares from this startup. Then we can license, this is the licensing game. And I think, that's how fashion empires are built. Walt Disney, it's built like this, Marvel Universe's entertainment industry. And I didn't understand why it doesn't exist in our world. Just commissioning from fashion houses for small breadcrumbs to the artist. And I'm like, let's change this, because amazing collaborations can happen. A fashion designer and a digital artist or a game developer, they're all creatives. And if you put them together, they create magic, I want to see magic. Like Doug Aitken did Station to Station in 2013. It was an amazing story for you because it was a brand partnership and a moving train from New York to San Francisco. I don't know if you remember this. Blew me away. Why we don't see project like this? And he had a regenerative business model. Station to Station was funding 7 museums programming. And I was like, why don't we do stuff like this? I started to ask these questions and I was like, the materials are here. Amazing institution needs new models for collaborations. They need to, brands need experimental marketing and support more authentically and not the way that they do sometimes artists. And this is the time, I think, And I'm glad that I'm meeting all these awesome people on stage who think alike.
And then last but not least, and you started a bit the conversation actually, Susanna, on the vision, because what you say is a lot grounded in the future of what it could be. But we also wanted to discuss digital art as a cultural catalyst and how actually the medium per se, because it's using technology and embracing our time, it can really bring something to society, not only the contemporary art market and our industry, but the societies in general. And Erin, I know you mentioned it already at the beginning, speaking about the key element that is education in your programs and development. So can you tell us what you expect your programs to do for the American society or further?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot as I sit here this week. What's the role of a museum in this ecosystem? And, typical fashion, if you're an artist and you've made it into a museum, either you're already dead or you've really made it and that's your Shangri-La. And I think museums have a better place to be in the whole ecosystem, and so let's keep talking about that. I think we can do a lot to amplify to the greater public what it means to be digital and in the many forms we see it. So I've been thinking about this like way broader than just how I interpret what's on our walls. So that's where my head goes.
Thanks, Erin. Maybe Susanna, you want to jump in, especially as you're building big cities. I mean, in your projects, also the urban side and fully communities.
Yeah. I wanted to add something here in the museum because I'm part of a couple of museum networks, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I think it's valuable information. Museums still, many countries, they're leading what society trusts the most, and it's actually museums. In the U.S., like so many countries, and I think it's a very key component in the age of surveillance capitalism and psyops capitalism, and I think institutions should be the bridge between education, entertainment, actually, community building, and how this intersects. And I think the rural point I really appreciate because well, I think one of the most amazing museums in the world is in Brazil. It's called in Ho Chi Minh. And a site-specific, it's in Minas Gerais. It's not next to Sao Paulo or Rio. And of course, old story, a billionaire commissioned the best artists in the world to do site-specific stuff. But the whole in Ho Chi Minh and the whole area became the most visited tourist place in the middle of nowhere, like literally in the middle of nowhere. And I think it's beautiful because it gave, employment, like it put Minas Gerais and next to Belo Horizonte on the map. And I really resonate because we wanted to buy one of the most amazing museums in the United States. It's called the Southwest Museum of the American Indian. And it's decaying, no one wants it. And I think it would have been amazing to build the Embassy of Indigenous People in LA. That's the first museum built in 1914. I'm talking about this because I went to Indian country, that's how they call it in Oklahoma. I spent a month there with tribes and really understood the United States when I went to the middle. And it really shocked me, in a good and bad, how important it is not to think of New York's and not to think of LA and all the Paris and Basel, but really bring culture where most people actually live, and how we can resonate with them because they would be probably scared to go to the Whitney Museum.
And within different communities as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right
and
over.
Now that we have a couple of minutes also, Elena and Vicente, if you want to share also your vision on the topic.
So I think it's a really complex question because, first of all, we are talking about museums as a single thing, and there are very, very different models inside the museums. Where's the money from? Is it private? Is it public? Which responsibility we have? Are people paying tickets? Is for free? Are we bidding for our city? Are we part of a bigger international system? So all these questions are really important in terms of for each of us to understand what we can do and how to do it. So for us personally, I believe with digital art and with digital culture, we really want to create strong research and experimentation so we can build and have amazing artists, but also grow into the conversations that they are starting. Because it's not something that you just contemplate art, like it's very powerful. And in terms of dealing with communicating this kind of works, sometimes you have to first tell people, for example, what blockchain is. And it's not easy because we have many, many big and different audiences. You have people from everywhere, all ages. So how we do mediate, even explaining the technology so we can go further with the conversation and to really build stuff. So it's really difficult. Yeah.
And Vicente, what is your perspective on that?
Yes.
Last words are with you.
just to think to different things. First, in the Art Center, we will start what is called the STEAM programs: science, technology, engineering, art, and maths, for the local community. The other day came what in slang is called a PAX, a guy to move boxes, This guy is, I think he's 19 years old. He left the studies, for me was quite shocking because this guy, if we don't train him, in other skills, this guy, his life will be moving boxes, So we are trying to do these projects in the these programs in the art center for the local community.
It literally creates new jobs
Yeah.
for.
And to make to show the people that the science and technology and mathematics are fun, not as they say in the school, you know. That's another question. But on the other hand, you know, in this topical moment that we are living, we come from the utopical times, you know, about the technological revolution. You know, let me say that with David Cantoya, you know, I remember in the 90s, you know, how we were. Now we are in these topical moments where it's crazy. I think that we need this critical thinking that art is putting over the table, you know. And we are creating now 3 committees, you know. But we left the 4th committee for, we are giving us 2 years to create this committee because for me it's the most important and will be the committee for critical thinking.
Thank you. To conclude, maybe I'll just say that with you 4, we really see how you have different basically models, different strategies, different visions. And it's exciting to really see how we can, with those diversities and those different strategies, we can tackle the challenges of digital art, make it enter contemporary art practices more fully. But also what's interesting is that in your situations, we're talking about private funding and private institutions. So it's also interesting to see how the private sector is actually pioneering those practices and maybe pushing public institutions to be more bold on the topic, which is, I think, what they should do if they hear us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.